Okay, you can start now, Chair.
Great. Prynawn da, good afternoon. Chroeso and welcome to the Personnel Committee on the 18th of November 2024. I'm Councillor Anthony John Richards and I will be chairing today's meeting of the Personnel Committee. So croeso, welcome to the members of the public or press viewing this meeting. Please ensure that your microphones are switched off. You are here to observe the meeting only. And members and officers, please ensure that your phones are switched to silent for the duration of the meeting and that your microphones are switched to mute unless you're speaking. In addition, when asked to raise your hand, if members who are virtually attending this meeting could raise your electronic hand, and for members physically present, just raise your hand and Chloe will let me know. Agenda item 2 is declarations of interest. So if there are any declarations of interest from members, can you say what the item or items are and what the interest is? And if yes, Chloe will forward an electronic version of the form for you to complete and email back to her. So are there any declarations of interest?
I see no indication, Chair.
No, great. Okay, diolch yn fawr. Thank you very much. Agenda item 3 is minutes from the previous meeting of the Personnel Committee held on the 2nd of September 2024. The minutes of the 2nd of September are on pages 5 to 8 of your agenda pack, and the minutes are here for approval. There's a little bit of feedback from some members, so can I just remind members to go on mute? That would be great. So yeah, in terms of the minutes, they are here for approval of accuracy. So any comments?
I see no indication, Chair.
No, do we have a proposer and a seconder, please?
I'll propose, Chair.
Happy to second, Evangelio.
Great, diolch yn fawr. Yeah, so members, if you do not indicate to the contrary by raising your hand, I will assume that the content with the accuracy of those minutes.
I see no indication to the contrary, Chair, so I can confirm those minutes have been approved.
Brilliant, diolch yn fawr. Thank you very much. Agenda item 4 is the annual equalities report 2023 to 2024, and the report is on pages 9 to 48 and is here for decision. So Diane is going to take this report. So Diane, do you have anything further to add?
Thank you, Chair. Just to say that this is the annual report we bring to you every year. It's part of our public sector equality duty. So the report is all the data that we're required to publish, and we've put some text around it to make it more interesting and to put what we do into context. So I'm happy to take any questions today, Chair.
Brilliant, thank you, Diane. Members, any questions?
I see no indication, Chair.
No. Okay. So I now refer members to the recommendation on page 11 of the agenda pack. So I'm happy to propose if I could have a seconder, please.
Second, Chair.
Great, diolch yn fawr. Any abstentions?
I see no indication.
Okay, members, if you do not indicate to the contrary by raising your hand, I will assume that you're in favour of the recommendations.
I see no indication to the contrary, Chair, so I can confirm that those recommendations have been approved.
Great, diolch yn fawr, thank you. So agenda item 5 is the Social Partnership Duty Annual Report. So this report is on pages 49 to 58 and is here for decision. So Sheena, do you have anything further to add?
Thanks, Chair. So this report has been prepared in line with the Social Partnership Duty as set out in the Social Partnership and Public Procurement Wales Act 2023. The local authority is required under this Act to seek consensus or compromise with recognised trade unions when setting wellbeing objectives and making decisions of a strategic nature about the steps that we intend to take to deliver on those objectives. The report provides members with information on how we sought to do that with the recognised trade unions. In line with the social partnership duty, we've agreed this report with the recognised trade unions, so they have endorsed the content of this report. And the decision for members to take is to approve this report for submission to the Social Partnership Council for Wales in line with the social partnership duty. So happy to take any questions, Chair.
Brilliant, great, thank you very much for that. Members, any questions?
I see no indication, Chair.
Okay, great. I now refer members to the recommendation on page 53 of the agenda pack. Again, I'm happy to propose if I could have a seconder, please.
I'll second, Chair.
Great, thank you very much. Any abstentions?
I see none.
No. And members, if you do not indicate to the contrary by raising your hand, I will assume that you're in favour of the recommendations.
I see no indication to the contrary, Chair, so I can confirm those recommendations have been approved.
Brilliant, diolch yn fawr, thank you. So agenda item 6 is the Christmas and New Year holiday arrangements for 2025 and 2026, as well as 26-27. Now, the report is on pages 59 to 70 and is here for decision. So we'll go to Diane for this. Anything further you'd like to add, Diane?
Only to say, Chair, that consultation has taken place with chief officers and the trade unions at the preferred option, taking into account the easiest understandable opening hours for the public and service operation of services. Thank you.
Great, diolch yn fawr, thank you. Members, any questions?
I see none, Chair.
So I now refer members to the recommendations on page 62 of the agenda pack. So again, I'm happy to propose if I could have a seconder, please.
I'll second, Chair.
Diolch yn fawr. Any abstentions?
I see no abstentions, Chair.
Brilliant. Members, if you do not indicate to the contrary by raising your hand, I will assume that you're in favour of the recommendations.
I see no indication to the contrary, Chair, so I can confirm those recommendations have been approved.
Great, diolch yn fawr. So agenda item 7 is the volunteering policy. Now, this report is on pages 71 to 106 and is here for decision. So, Sheena, do you have anything further to add?
Thanks, Chair. So developing a volunteering policy was one of the commitments that we made in our strategic workforce plan and the delivery action plan for year 2 of the workforce strategy. The reason that we were keen to develop a volunteering policy was firstly because we already use volunteers in many services of the council, but we don't have a standard framework for recruiting and managing those volunteers. We wanted to make sure that there was consistency of approach and that in particular arrangements in relation to pre-employment checks were adhered to. But also we were keen to develop a volunteering policy because of the benefits to well-being. So those who volunteer actually gain a lot from that volunteering experience. So the volunteering policy is to create volunteering opportunities across the council, and those volunteering opportunities can be taken up by people external to the council, but also by council employees. So hopefully this is just another measure in the range of benefits that we provide for council employees and to enhance their well-being within the workplace. So happy to take any questions, Chair.
Great, diolch yn fawr, thank you, Sheena. Members, any questions? We've got Councillor Sean Percy, please.
Dear Cadero, thank you. And thanks, Sheena, for introducing the report. Yeah, I welcome this really. As someone who's done a lot in the voluntary sector, run, small voluntary organisations, done a lot of volunteering myself, I know the benefits there. And in particular, it's challenging for the council with all the bureaucracy that we have sometimes. I think some service areas perhaps have not had the confidence to engage volunteers without a framework and some guidance. So I'm hoping this will lead to more opportunities coming forward, but I think we might need to do a bit of monitoring work on that to see what the impact is on volunteering opportunities across the council. But a question, just thinking of the areas that currently do use volunteers, do we have a sense of how many volunteers we're currently engaging in the council? I'm just thinking in terms of the impact of this, maybe retrospectively. I imagine some areas may be doing some of the things in this policy, some areas might not. And I'm wondering if we've mapped out what that sort of impact is in terms of those service areas, maybe catching up with doing some of those checks or risk assessments or whatever it is that may be missing in those areas. Diolch.
Great, diolch, Councillor Percy. Sheena?
So thanks, Councillor Percy, for the question. We don't currently capture data in relation to volunteers. As part of our monitoring of arrangements moving forward, we will capture that data. We have engaged with services that we know use volunteers. And so, for example, things like the pre-employment checks, we've made sure that they are very well aware of them. They're particularly relevant for schools who are big users of volunteers. So we will be capturing data moving forward and making sure that that we're monitoring the consistency of approach moving forward. But unfortunately, we don't have data to help us look backwards.
Great. I can see Councillor Percy was nodding there. So any further questions, Councillor Percy, on that?
I'll only come in briefly, Chair, if that's okay. I suppose I was wondering whether we'd done a sort of mapping exercise before putting the policy in place, but it sounds like once we had a general awareness, we perhaps haven't got the numerical data at the moment, but obviously you've said we'll be gathering that going forward, so I think we'll just we'll wait and see in a year's time or so how that picture looks. Diolch.
Great. Diolch yn fawr. Sheena, did you want to come back, or happy with that?
No, that's fine. Thank you, Councillor.
Sorry, Chair, and the leader would like to come in if that's okay.
Yeah, okay. We'll bring the leader and then we'll go to Councillor Rob Jones. The leader.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Similar on Councillor Percy's point, I also welcome this report. I mean, it is defined within the report to work with local communities and partners to develop a diverse range of suitable volunteering, and clarity of roles and expectations are there of both volunteer and the council to be defined. Obviously, we need the volunteers to understand their duties and their limits of involvement, so there's no misunderstanding, which the report says. But what I need to understand, or maybe it's not at this stage, Sheena, is that how diverse are we looking? Because the suitable experience to move on to a job, social workers, some types of volunteering may be prohibited. Is there going to be a defined list of what they're allowed to volunteer for? Is there something going to go out? Because if you're going to go into the communities to ask for their opinions of where they're going to come to volunteer, are you going to give guidance of what we've got for them to volunteer to? Is it going to be quite vast, or is it going to be niche? Or it's just a bit of better understanding that I couldn't quite find in the report as to exactly what we are able to achieve here. Thank you.
Okay, so it's actually the services themselves that will create the volunteering opportunities and then advertise those opportunities, inviting people to present themselves to undertake that particular volunteering role. Before a member of staff decides to volunteer, they should have a conversation with their line manager just to make sure that there aren't any conflicts of interest, as they would if they were going to undertake secondary employment, for example. So there may be certain types of volunteering that wouldn't necessarily be appropriate depending on what their job role was, but that's going to be very much a case-by-case basis. The volunteering roles shouldn't be taking away paid employment. So a volunteer should be something that's very supplementary to our core service. A volunteer won't be doing the work of a paid employee, for example. We already use lots of volunteers, so across schools, supporting reading numeracy initiatives, supporting with gardening clubs and all those sorts of things. We use volunteers across our parks. So there's already pretty wide and diverse use of volunteers across the council in the theatres, for example, as well. So this is hopefully just going to increase the opportunities for our own workforce, and enable us to have a framework so we can actually publicise those opportunities and make sure that everybody's aware of what the possibilities are. It is a great way for people to get experience to enable them to then go on to gain employment. But it's not just for that purpose. It can be just because people want to help out, want to use particular skills they've got to help people in the community. So there's a win-win.
Yeah, thanks for that. If I come back, Chair, just very briefly, thanks for that, Sheena. That explains it more internally. And I was just wondering, given the circumstances in our schools, teaching assistants and teachers, etc., whether they can come into the council voluntary. Like I touched on, they'll have a bit more of a background of what they do, move into social service workers. What I was not worried about, what I was thinking then is, how could they volunteer in such a niche sort of part of the authority without having somebody sort of monitoring them or meeting their needs or getting them to be trained, because that's time consuming. So maybe I welcome the report. Maybe I'm thinking too much into the practices of what it's going to look like. But I thought it was a good idea that if before they go on to other jobs or be made redundant, maybe if they can't find a job, they can volunteer in the council in that way. Sorry if I didn't explain myself properly.
Okay. So in circumstances where we've got somebody who's at risk of losing their employment, there's probably other ways in which we can support them to identify suitable alternative employment. Probably the volunteering policy isn't the route that we would necessarily take. It's something that perhaps could work alongside it, could help people gain useful skills. What we would never do is have a volunteer unsupervised within any of our workplaces, and particularly when it comes to work with children or adults. We wouldn't be leaving a volunteer on their own working with vulnerable people. There should always be a paid officer working alongside them and supervising them. There are all sorts of things that I'm sure we can develop as time goes on with this as well. So exploring opportunities across all our workplaces is something that we certainly want to do.
Thanks, Chair. Thanks, Sheena.
Diolch yn fawr. And next we'll move to Councillor Rob Jones, please.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. When I first read this policy, I was slightly confused in the beginning. I thought that it was allowing council staff to actually volunteer outside of the council. It's only when you read the plethora of papers that you realise it's about volunteering for council services that we currently provide. And I have a little bit of a dichotomy in relation to some of the wording within the document. For example, we say about libraries and museums. Well, the majority of our libraries are now franchised out and community run and we haven't got any museums per se as a museum stands. But we do have volunteers within our schools, and I noticed the document says that the DBS check will be paid for by the authority, or a small charge by the authority of £5 plus. But DBS checks cost a lot more than that. So if they are going to make a contribution towards that DBS check, what is the current situation when we've got lots of parents going into schools to sit with children, particularly in primary level, or to help with sports? So where are the schools going to be allowed to cost recover any of that money, whereas they pay full cost recovery at this moment in time? And then how are we going to be fixed with current organisations that currently exist and supplement and volunteer the services that we've already got? I can give a great example, and I'm sure all members on this call can give examples of groups in their own areas that currently exist. I'm going to use the Friends of Margam Park. There are over 100 people that volunteer in the Friends of Margam Park. I think you've got a Friends of the Vivian Park. You've got Friends of Libraries. These are already in existence. Do we have to now capture those? Bearing in mind that the libraries are franchised out and community-based and run, how are we going to capture that information, and how are we as an authority going to support those that are currently already doing a volunteering job in all bar name and not registered with this scheme? I hope you're getting the flavour of the silence in relation to this that the document is missing, and it's not going to capture right across the county borough the libraries that are community franchised, those that are already in existence. I'm sure Steve will say about the Friends of Kevin Coyd, etc. And I'm sure that all of us could give examples. So I hope I'm making myself clear that we've already got a volunteering system, but it may not be on the register. So I leave it for that point there, Chair, to see what officers say in relation to what I've raised.
Diolch yn fawr, Councillor Jones. Sheena?
Thanks, Chair. So in terms of the first question in relation to DBSs for volunteers are free. It's just a small admin fee that has to be paid to process the DBS. So that's around £5 per volunteer. So that's the first point. In terms of the second point, this policy is in relation to people who are going to volunteer directly with the council, so not via other organisations. So we can certainly check on the Friends of Margam Park, but my understanding is that that is a established society or club which will have its own arrangements for membership of that club. This is for volunteers who are going to volunteer directly with the council. We do have many volunteers already with the council, and a lot of those volunteers actually are probably already in compliance with the scheme, but there will be a role for the managers of those volunteers just to make sure that they have all the necessary checks in place. So for example, when it comes to the safe recruitment checks, they should already be in place. If this framework triggers a manager to go and check that they are all in order, then that's great. And it's just for people volunteering directly with the council.
Can I come back, Chair?
Of course.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I can understand that, but these volunteers in these Friends of societies are already supporting council services. In essence, they are already volunteering, supporting the council in a role, albeit that they badged as a society, and in order to be registered normally as a charity, in order to get grant funding, in order for them to fulfill that role. Are you therefore saying that any existing organisation, club, group will be not included and, dare I say it, exempt from registering with this scheme going forward?
So this isn't a scheme as such for people to register to. So no, we wouldn't be expecting the Friends of Markham Park to register with the volunteering scheme. We could certainly recommend our volunteering policy to them, but this is fairly standardized practice. So I would imagine that the Friends of Markham Park already have arrangements in place that are similar to this, and most volunteering organisations should already be adhering to principles that are similar to this framework. But we can certainly recommend it to them. But this framework will only apply to people who are volunteering directly with the council.
Final point, Chair. If that is the case, then Sheena, can I respectfully request that where we've got well-established Friends of, and I use Markham Park because it's in my area, I've also got the Friends of Talbot Library, where we've got well-established links already, that this is broadened out to put it on their radar so that should they wish to volunteer, then they can do so. It's just increasing our scope of people to volunteer and spreading the word wider. Thank you, Chair.
Great, thank you very much. Any further questions from any members?
I see no indication, Chair.
Great, so I now refer members to the recommendations on page 74 of the agenda pack. So I'm happy to propose, if I could have a seconder, please.
I'll second, Chair.
Diolch yn fawr. Members, if you any abstentions first?
I see no indication.
Okay, members, if you do not indicate to the contrary by raising your hand, I will assume that you're in favour of the recommendations.
I see no indication to the contrary, Chair, so I can confirm those recommendations have been approved.
Great, diolch yn fawr iawn. Okay, so those were all of our matters for decision. So now we'll move on to matters for information. So we're on to agenda item 8, which is the workforce information Q2. And this report is on pages 107 to 126 and is here for information. So I know Lauren is on the call as well, who's here from our People and Analytics, who's the manager there. But Sheena, firstly, do you have anything further to add?
Thanks, Chair. So this is the regular information report that comes before Personnel Committee, providing a range of people, data and analytics. The one thing to flag up in this Q2 report for 24-25 is that we have seen an increase in sickness absence. Talking to colleagues across Wales, this does seem to be a national trend rather than something specific to Neath Talbot. Nonetheless, we are sharing that data with senior management teams across the council for them to look into the reasons for sickness absence across their services and to ensure that we are managing sickness absence appropriately. So I'm happy to take questions on any of the data that's provided, and of course Lauren's on the call as well and can support with that. Thank you, Chair.
Great, diolch yn fawr. Thank you very much. Members, any questions?
I see no indication, Chair.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, and we note the report. So we'll move on then to agenda item 9, which is employers for carers, carer confident benchmark scheme. So the report is on pages 127 to 134 and is here for information. So Sheena, do you have anything further to add?
Yes, Chair, just to say that this is a good news story. So building on the introduction of the Employers for Carers membership that we signed up to in 2022. The team that included Tom Owen and other colleagues from the Future of Work team have been working hard to implement our arrangements supporting employees who have caring responsibilities outside of work. And submitted our arrangements for assessment, and we've been assessed as achieving the benchmark of level 2 accomplished. So that's really nice recognition of the arrangements that we have in place, and it's something that we intend to continue to build on. Enabling employees with caring responsibilities to remain in work is good for them and good for their families, but also good for us as an employer, because it means that we are able to retain those skills and experience, and hopefully support those people with their caring responsibilities. So thank you, Chair. Happy to take any questions.
Great, diolch yn fawr, diolch to everyone as well, and a massive congratulations, for achieving that level 2 in the Carer Confident benchmarking scheme. I think it really showcases the commitment to an inclusive, workplace and strong support for carers as well. So, having impactful initiatives and leadership in fostering a supportive work environment. So, massive llongyfarchiadau, congratulations. But members, any questions on that?
We've got Councillor Joe Hale in the chamber, Chair.
Yes, we'll go to Councillor
Thank you. It's not a question, it's just to echo what you've just said, Anthony, on achieving the award. So well done, everybody, and thank you.
Great, diolch yn fawr. Councillor Sean Percy, please.
Diolch Cadeirydd, thank you. Just curious what additional actions we need to take in order to reach that next level. Thanks.
So it's set out on page 130 of the report, Councillor Percy, the range of evidence that we had to submit. So we had to demonstrate that we were communicating our arrangements for employees who are carers, and that we were showing our commitment as an employer to supporting carers within our workforce. One of the really nice bits of evidence that we were able to provide was the Carers Wales Award that was given to our home care team, a line manager, and supported by an HR officer as well, were given that award for the really bespoke support that they've provided to colleagues within the home care service. We've had to demonstrate that we have briefed a range of people, so including, really importantly, line managers, to ensure that they're aware of how to support carers within the workforce. We had to show that we had carried out a survey of staff who are carers to find out how they are feeling, how their mental health and well-being is, what support they need within our workplaces, what more we could do to help them. We've recruited a number of carers champions across our workplaces. The carers champions are people that can signpost carers to avenues of support and increase awareness. We held a number of drop-in sessions on Carers' Rights Day, again, to make sure that we're increasing awareness of the access to support and range of benefits. We've created a Viva Engage channel. So that's an online channel providing a range of information on a weekly basis for employees. And we're also including Employers for Carers information in our onboarding and our induction arrangements as well. So in essence, it's all about awareness raising. That's a really big thing, making sure that people who can support people within the workplace know what support to provide, and people who have caring responsibilities know where to go when they need that support. So that's it in a nutshell.
Great, diolch yn fawr. Councillor Percy?
Yeah, thanks, Jed, and thanks, Sheena, for running through those. You know, it's clear we've taken a lot of action to get to this stage. I suppose what I'm trying to get at is to get from the level we're at now to that third level is what additional steps would we need to take to reach that, I think it's ambassador level, isn't it, was the third level?
Yeah, yeah, Diane is just going to run through that, Councillor Percy. She's got the list in front of her. I'll just hand you over.
Yeah, Councillor Percy, it's more of the same really, just in more detail. So I'll just give you, there's about 10 different areas that we've got to cover. So it's that we demonstrating creative and innovative approaches to supporting and engaging carers and having an open, positive workplace culture. Involving carers in the development of policies and guidance and processes to support them in the workplace. Providing information and support, making sure that we support carers at all stages through their employment, so from recruitment until they leave, enabling and encouraging carers to take up practical support from both within the organisation and outside, equipping our managers so that they can help support carers in the workplace, communicating again, and the champions then lead by example and, you know, make sure that they're giving out information to carers in the workplace. So it's very similar to level 2, but it's a little bit more in depth.
Okay, all okay with that? Any further questions from any members, please?
I see no indication.
Okay, so thank you for going through that, and congratulations again. And we note the report. So now we move on then to agenda item 10, which is the Employment Rights Bill. Now this report is on pages 135 to 140 and is here for information. So Diane, do you have anything further to add?
No, Chair, you know, the bill isn't in legislation yet. This is what we've picked up. It's 156 pages long. I've just tried to identify what changes will be needed across the council as a result of this legislation being implemented. So we're not sure whether it's all going to be implemented as it said or whether there's going to be changes because it's out for consultation at the moment.
Great, and thank you for all the work that you've done on that and collating all that information. Members, any questions?
I see no indication, Chair.
Okay, great, thank you very much. So we note that report. Agenda item 11 is urgent items. There are none. And then agenda item 12 is access to meetings. So that pursuant to section 100A4 and 5 of the Local Government Act 1972, the public be excluded for the following item of business, which involves the likely disclosure of exempt information as defined in paragraph 15 of part 4 of schedule 12A of the above act. So I propose that we move into a private session. Could I have a seconder, please?
I'll second, Chair.
Diolch yn fawr. Any abstentions?
I see none.
Members, if you do not indicate to the contrary by raising your hand, I will assume that you're in favour of moving into private.
I see no indication, Chair, so I'll just stop the recording.
Great, thanks, Chloe.